sorry, really quick. Do you encounter atheists frequently that deny that?
What's that?
That deny that thing you just said. Do you encounter atheists that say, no, to know something exists, you have to see it?
Yeah, today.
Oh no,
that's fucking stupid.
I've had some weird atheists.
Yeah,
I know. To be honest with you, most atheists are getting a chokehold. So I'm hoping. I'll explain.
That's not going to happen to me, mate. But go on.
Yeah, we'll see. Because my argument that I've been employing steamrolls everyone I speak to, and I've been saying to my boy Ben here, I need to meet an atheist that can push back on me.
Okay.
Because right now the argument it seems unstoppable.
Go on. Lay it on me. Sorry, I'm jumping because I'm excited, but also because I'm cold.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's chilly.
Okay. So my claim, or my belief, is based upon this. And this is the other thing as well. When I say to atheists, I don't care what you believe, but I care if you believe my belief is irrational.
Yeah, sure.
The reason I say that is because I moved from a salesman to a consumer.
Okay.
So I'm no longer trying to convince you.
Yeah.
So your opinion is irrelevant.
Okay. Well, you are trying to convince me now, right? Like,
No.
I think you're about to give an argument, aren't you?
No, I'm trying to. Do you believe my belief in God is irrational?
Depends why you believe it. Depends why.
Oh, you think there's rational reasons to believe in God?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What rational reasons are there to believe in God?
Well, so I mean, if a theist had a religious experience where
oh, come on, that's not rational.
Well, no, hang on a second. Let me develop it fully. Had a religious experience where they really believe, and it's like as vivid as basically any experience they've ever had, that they encountered God directly in some way, like that God spoke to them, or God like revealed himself to them in some way that's like very direct, as sometimes happens. I find it difficult to say they're being irrational. I mean, so the reason that I say this, right, is because I have quite a thin, like for me, rationality is quite a low bar. Basically, like, to be rational, as far as I care about it, it's just like don't contradict yourself, or at least like don't have beliefs that entail that your other beliefs are unlikely, things like this. So you could reason backwards in a way that's genuinely rational to some, to believe, to believe in God. But I would disagree with your starting point. Just because I disagree with someone doesn't make them irrational.
No, but you started off beautifully.
Okay.
And this is the starting point that most atheists forget about. And I can see you're clued up because you said it. I don't know why you believe.
Yes, I don't know why you in particular believe.
Because and you understood what the word belief means. You know what the word belief means, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not like Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's like, oh, I don't believe anything. Science isn't.
No, but you know what belief
is?
is?
There's no such thing as belief.
Do you know what belief is?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah.
What's a belief?
It's like a belief is a kind of affirmative attitude towards a proposition, right?
He keeps using academic words, man.
Sorry.
No, I understood it. Basically, the acceptance of something to be true.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Yes,
okay. So when you say I believe this to be true, you reason it.
Well, belief doesn't have to be true, but you have to think it's true. But yeah.
No, but a belief can be true, isn't it? Without proof.
Yeah. Yeah, belief can be true, yeah.
Because it can be reasoned.
Well, yeah.
Like, for example.
Has been years,
If he tells me testimony, I can't prove it. Proof's a very strict.
Okay. So do you know he's your father or believe he's your father?
I believe it on the basis of testimony.
So you believe it, but you don't know.
Yeah.
But you don't know.
Well, I do know it. Yeah.
You don't know.
I think I do know it.
How do you know it?
Well, so this is so I teach philosophy, right? And this is the thing.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So this is the thing that students often say is that they come in thinking that knowledge requires certainty. No. Knowledge just merely requires like reasonable justification. And I think
What's the difference between knowledge and
Can I ask a dumb question? Just a dumb question, right? So we
bored everyone though.
We did. So the classical definition of knowledge that we get from Aristotle, true justified belief. Do you subscribe to that?
No.
Okay. Is it because of the Gettier issues? Okay, fine. So are you a knowledge first epistemologist?
What does that mean?
You know, Timothy Williamson, where he begins off with that, he challenges this notion that, the broken clock example, Gettier's issues, that you true justify.
I don't know about the broken clock sort of rings a bell, but I don't know it.
Okay. So you can have a belief which is justified, which is true, and you believe it, and it's false.
Yeah, Gettier cases. Yeah.
Gettier cases, right?
Yeah, sure.
So when you say knowledge doesn't require certainty, which definition of knowledge are you using?
So basically on all of them, I think any reasonable definition of knowledge, it merely requires justification, and justification isn't always of kind of like the standard of deductive or mathematical proof. So a belief, you can have a belief that is justified by nothing, right? But knowledge has to be justified and also has to be true. A belief doesn't have to be true. You can have a false belief.
Yeah. So the classical definition, you disagree with that because of Getier's issues. What's your definition of knowledge then?
I don't think I really have one.
Okay.
But I have sufficient conditions, right? Like,
I feel like I just need to cut to the chase.
Where
does the information in DNA come from?
Where does the information come from?
How did you lose so much weight?
Diabetes.
I don't know.
I got diagnosed like
Wherever DNA comes
in December.
Okay.
So I just
In your human experience,
switched my
when it's coded
lifestyle.
information, where's it from?
Alhamdulillah. So it's got really well. It was really bad when I was diagnosed. Insulin at like 4 times a day. But now I'm not on insulin or anything.
Design, like blueprint for building.
Just eating well. Alhamdulillah.
Is there a difference between information and coded information?
I've never heard someone. I mean, presumably what you mean by coded is some kind of language. That's what it makes it sound like.
Yeah, I mean,
but things can have information and content that aren't language.
I don't understand the question. Sorry, I didn't.
So I'm asking him about the information in DNA. Where does it come from? He says he doesn't know.
Okay.
So then I'm asking him, according to his human experience, whenever he sees information, coded information, what's its source?
Yeah.
Now he's arguing semantics on the term information, coded information, as if there's a difference between that and information. Do I need to say coded information?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the question's the same thing. What is the inference to the best explanation for the DNA?
No, don't go there yet.
Okay.
What we're establishing right now.
I thought you were wearing a mega hat for a second.
Yeah, I didn't.
Right?
What we're establishing is what is coded information when we're talking about. I say coded information, like blueprints to a building, like a flower arranged "Welcome to London." And no one's going to look at a flower arrangement that says "Welcome to London" and think, "Oh, birds have accidentally dropped seeds into that."
Yeah.
We know.
It's the same as the thing with the code, though. Were you there for that?
Don't worry about that.
Okay, it's the same thing.
No. I heard about the code. No, it's not. I'll explain why it's not. I'll explain why it's not. Okay. So this is coded information. Blueprints to a building. It's coded information. Agreed on.
What's not coded information? Like non-coded but nonetheless information. What's that? That would help me get a grip of the concept.
Okay, I would say salt.
My definition of, because I don't want to get into information theory and all the rest of that malarkey, my very clear definition of information requires intentionality, specified complexity.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my definition.
Yeah.
However, I know there's other definitions which may not concur with this.
So then I would just say I'm no biology expert, not by any stretch.
No. Leave DNA alone.
Huh?
Keep going to DNA. Yes.
You brought it up.
No. I asked you that original question. Sure. And you said you don't know, and I left it there. Then I moved away from that because that's something you don't know. So I moved from things you don't know to things you do know. See the difference?
Yeah.
So I'm not asking you now to guess or go to the gaps or whatever it may be. I'm asking you now the same type of information that we find in DNA. I'll give you an example. Bill Gates said it beautifully. He says the coded information in DNA is the equivalent of a computer program, but much more advanced than we could ever imagine. Okay. So that's how Bill Gates described that information. So we're talking about, when I say coded information, I'm talking, like I say, Welcome to London flower arrangement. I'm talking about blueprints to a building. I'm talking about computer program. I'm talking about AI. Every time we see this coding, this type of information, which is the same type of information in DNA, have you ever come across a time when it's never sourced by intelligence?
Yeah.
Give me an example.
So I mean, if you have a gas in a box, there's information in there in a genuine, real physical sense in the box. Like,
1 second. It's good to do it.
I'm going to go back in.
I who got the box? But
I feel like waffling, but it's all right. I feel you are.
No, I'm not. Look,
I think you are.
So,
1 second.
there's a bunch of particles in the box.
1 second.
Right? A bunch of atoms in the box.
How did they get in the box?
Oh, so it does kind of just reduce to
I'm
the jacket thing.
I'm talking about things you know that contain this type of information. Is there any time when it isn't sourced by something intelligent? It's a simple question.
Yes.
Right. Give me an example.
Physical systems have information in them all the time. Everywhere, all the time.
No, coded
So
information.
for example, right, you have a gas in a region of space. Let's imagine it's not a box because that does make it sound like it's a designer, right? It's just a gas, like a nebula floating around. It's got like a bajillion particles.
You're doing it again.
No.
No, listen to what I'm saying to you, please.
How do you know that what I'm saying isn't relevant?
Because you're ignoring what I'm saying. I'll tell you the difference.
You have to let me finish, otherwise you won't know if what I'm saying is relevant.
Are you talking about things you don't know or know?
I know this is true, right?
So you know there's a gas in the galaxy.
Well, I know that if there's a gas...
No, that's not what you know then, is it?
Yeah, I know a conditional statement, which is...
No. I'm not interested in hypothetical situations. I'm interested in what you know.
Gases in the universe.
Based upon your human experience.
Fine. The air, right, in this region, kind of loosely speaking...
This air.
Yeah, defined by Hyde Park, right?
Yeah.
There's a number of air molecules. I mean, let's imagine they're all sort of the same. And you need, depending on how you count, you need roughly 6 or 7 numbers times the number of particles in the air to specify the physical state of the air.
And how do you know?
That's a lot of information. That's information.
And how do you know that's? And how do you know that's not the result of intelligence?
Well, I don't, I guess.
Right, so I didn't ask you about things you don't know, I asked you things you do know.
Well, so people can put gases in places. I mean, in the case of Hyde Park in particular, right?
That would be intelligence again.
In the case of Hyde Park in particular, there is a...
Right now, he's trying to demonstrate to me, whenever there's coded information, it's sourced by something not intelligent.
There's a theory about how it is the atmosphere formed.
And all he keeps...
Let's focus.
That's why the air is here.
Getting too gets confusing.
I'll say it again. You just explained something, and then you said, well, you don't know. All right, listen to my question. Things you do know. So I want you to know something, don't know about it. I want you to tell me something you do know that contains coded information, that source isn't intelligent.
Yeah, so I misspoke. I think there's very good reason to believe that the air in Hyde Park was not put there by an intelligence, but it has information in it.
That's what you know, is it?
It is, I know that.
How do you know it? Prove it.
So there's very good kind of geological evidence
No, I don't know.
Well, I mean, if knowledge requires this absolute standard of deductive proof, then yes, I don't know.
No,
that's not what knowledge
Joe. I'm asking you about things you know, and you keep going to abstract things you don't know.
No, I know that this is true. I know that it's true.
How?
I know that it's true.
How do you know it's true?
Very well confirmed geological.
What's your justification is true?
There are very well confirmed geological theories about the formation of the atmosphere that have it was a natural process.
How do they know it's true?
The air.
How do they know it's true?
By looking at evidence. I generally trust what geologists have to say about how air comes about. What's wrong with that?
Okay. Would you agree with him that the air is coded information? I'll explain why.
Come on,
no.
I like it to be one-on-one, or else it gets confusing.
No. And the reason I come to you... No. Because what I'm doing, I'm developing my argument, right? I think if you remember when I
And I don't like disagreeing with someone wearing a Palestinian scarf as well.
I know.
There's that.
The thing is, I prefaced my conversation with you that this particular argument I have steamrolls everywhere. Okay.
I want to hear this.
I prefaced it.
Is it the information?
This is it. You're actually against steamrolls.
I don't feel steamrolls.
No. I know you don't. You're an atheist. I know you don't. The point is this.
There's information in everything.
No.
I don't know what to tell you.
Here's the thing, you see. You might not feel you're getting steamrolled. People around...
Normally if you're getting steamrolled, you feel it.
Joe,
yeah.
No, Joe. I'll say it again. Look, my argument steamrolls. I want pushback.
I'll push it back.
Yeah, but it's terrible.
What's wrong with it?
Because I keep asking you a question to tell me something you know, and you keep telling me things you don't know. And that tells me you're either... There's nothing you know of that isn't sourced by intelligence, and now you're scrabbling in the rocks trying to find something.
Yeah.
Rather than just saying, you know what,
I'm actually not scrambling because
Joe,
I literally said literally any physical system has information in it.
Okay, so this is when I came to you. Yeah, my teacher. When we talk about information, and I'm talking about the type of information.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to establish the dichotomy between the type of information that we're referring to in, for example, flower arrangement, blueprints, computer program, book, to salt or a rock, or a puddle. Okay, this is what I'm referring to. Is, for example, the what is it? Gases?
Yeah, dude. You can.
If I'm to look, you know this as a philosophy teacher. Sometimes it's better to slow down and start defining terms.
Yeah, sure.
So I think maybe something that will help is: do you believe
really
that there is specified complexity in biological organisms?
So, I don't. So, a minute ago, you said that you can't specify complexity in such. He wants to know what your question was.
So I'm saying, so that we can slow down and establish some things we agree about. I'm asking Joe if he agrees in biological organisms we have specified complexity. I'm asking him a question.
Yeah. So look. So I've heard this term used before, even before you used it a minute ago. And to be honest with you, I can't remember how it's defined. That being said, earlier you said you define it in such a way, basically like by definition, that means that an agent has to intentionally put it there. And if that's what it means, then I don't think it's there.
So it's
just purely on that basis.
So if we define it to include an agent or include some form of teleology, design, functionality, whatever, then it becomes a truism, and it's a circular reasoning, right? And I don't do it that way.
It does sound like you did it that way.
No.
Well, earlier you said that.
No. I said the best explanation of specified complexity is an agent.
Okay.
So there's a difference. It's not within the definition of specified complexity that you have to have an agent.
And
my question was, what do you know?
What's the
Not what you think.
What's the difference between information and specified information?
So I believe all information is specified complexity.
Okay.
So as an example,
Same answer I gave this guy.
yeah. So on that grass, on that grass, it says Joe's wearing a red jacket. Okay. Now that's from leaves that have fallen. Okay. So here we have something which is complex. Each leaf is complex, but it's specified.
Okay.
It's not random.
Yeah, sure.
What is the best explanation? By the way, what is the best explanation of that specified complexity? It doesn't automatically mean that I'm inferring a designer. Now it's up to us to have a contest of inference.
It's not built in by definition yet.
Which is why it's not circular. Okay, now let's have that discussion. Yeah.
Well, so I still can't really figure out what the difference is between information and specified information, right? But
No, okay, my definition of information is specified complexity.
yeah. So you
Unspecific.
So look, this is just. It simply is just the watchmaker argument. It is. It's just the same thing. Like the watch has specified information in it, right? And so we have to infer that there's an agent there. It's literally exactly the same. So the answer is exactly the same. It's the answer I gave to the guy earlier, which I think, to be fair, was before you turned up. Which is, you know that the leaves, if they fell in such a way that it spelled out a sentence like the one you just uttered, would have to come from a person, because you know, based on background facts about the physics of the air and leaves and aerodynamics and shit like that, that it's very, very unlikely that the leaves would fall and just kind of by themselves settle into that position. You know things about the context in which the thing happened, right? You don't have that for the universe. The universe is its own context.
So this is the frame of reference fallacy that I was referring to earlier.
Yeah, explain it again.
Okay.
I can't remember what it was.
So
I think it's different for the universe.
if we have a mobile phone in the desert,
Yeah.
and I pick it up, I know it's designed because even though all of the components, the plastic, the metal, the sand, the glass, they all came together randomly, all the components to make the mobile phone are there. I know iPhone exists, I know Samsung exists, I know engineers exist, but we can't.
You also know things about like, the physics of rocks and desert. You know what I mean? Like, it's lots of stuff.
Yeah. So
how I use
that's your basic contention.
I always look for joints.
That's
And
one of
what
the
I'm
joints
doing
in
is
my
I'm
argument now
challenging
is
that,
it seems
and I'm saying that
information.
if, for example, we go to the
What I
moon
need to do now is
and we're digging on the moon and we find things put together which we do not know about alien civilization. We have no other ability to detect the background information of how this thing came about. But there is. Sorry, 1 second. There is a level of teleology. There's a level of design and precision and functionality. There's a level that cannot simply be explained away by the laws of nature acting upon the materials.
So
even though we don't have a frame of reference.
So
that's why I disagree.
So if you really genuinely lack a frame of reference, right? I know you used the example of the moon. It's merely an example.
There's no difference between information and coding.
I think it's worth reflecting on the fact that even when they went to the moon, like they knew a lot of shit about what was going to be on the moon. Everything, they knew a lot. If you literally lacked a frame of reference for making the kind of inference I described with the leads, then
used to having these arguments. He's trying to pigeonhole my argument
any reliable
into one
way that makes any sense. The thing you're looking at is design. How would you?
So I would make the inference
because you know
the best
it has a design,
explanation
because you don't get
is
this
a
type of thing without
form of
intelligence.
a designer, an agent, or someone with a mind.
Why?
Because of the complexity of what I see. It is specified, it functions,
Show
it's
us
designed.
anything that you know of that wasn't sourced by intelligence. You don't know this wasn't sourced by
But that's an
intelligence. I don't know why you
assumption.
keep pointing.
Well,
That's
I
an
mean,
assumption.
I mean, so both of us can like argue circularly here, right? Where I look around and I
this
go, like,
isn't
this wasn't-
circular. Listen to the question.
Okay.
Things you know, not things you're guessing.
Okay, so let me put
think I know.
Okay,
No, you don't know. You're guessing. You're assuming.
So, let's put it this way.
You've presupposed
believe in
it.
justification.
Okay, let's put it this way.
You've presupposed it based upon your own current
Do we
beliefs.
agree? Do we agree that there is specified
it's terrible.
complexity in biological organisms?
As best I can tell from what you're saying about what specified complexity means, or specified information, whatever, because you're going back and forth. I assume you mean they should be the same thing. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good. Now, once you have this piece of data, two people can come to two different inferences based upon their worldview. For example, James Watson and Francis Crick, when they discovered the double helix structure of DNA,
I didn't know. I didn't realize.
they had to decide where did this come
now
from.
Mugger comes
Now,
at
Francis
7,
Crick, he was a naturalist. He believed
Crimson Desert, what do you
consciousness was an illusion. He believed in everything being explained by time, space, matter, and energy. What he said is that
I played.
the DNA is possibly explained by an advanced
got me
alien
yet.
civilization
Bannerlord
that
is the
seeded
same
life
one.
on Earth.
I had to keep
Now,
coming back to it.
I grant him it's coherent.
I think
I
it will
don't deny
get
that. I grant him it's coherent. However,
The problem is Bannerlord's
the
got AI.
reason he came with that inference is because he is a naturalist. From his
Bannerlord's got
naturalistic
AI.
perspective,
Have you seen it?
he's pushing the
there's an
question
AI
to
one
another
where
civilization.
all the
Now, when Richard
NPCs
Dawkins was asked about
you can
this,
talk to.
he said, well,
You can check your Wi-Fi.
that's a potential
I convinced
answer.
this girl,
And then when he was asked where did that civilization come from,
follow me to
then
this village,
it's the same thing.
and agreed to
Right,
marry
just
me.
goes
We
back to
went
the same
back.
thing. However, me as a theist,
It doesn't
And
necessarily,
the thing
but
is-
I get your point.
Okay.
I mean, it's not.
They've,
But
they've,
that's-
it's what they've done
information's
now.
not that good.
They've done it now, so multiple
but
NPCs
it's
can get involved in the same conversation.
from their perspective. However, if someone doubts naturalism, say they don't believe in God, but they doubt
Yeah,
naturalism.
that's what I want.
The
Yeah, but
epistemic
But
toolkit
they've
is
done it now, so
wider.
you can have more than
So
one
now
NPC
they have two
in the same
possibilities.
conversation.
Either it's due to an alien
And apparently
civilization,
now,
or it's due to
source
some
of player 2 as well.
supernatural force.
it's,
And both of these are
Bro,
possible
I
inferences.
when I started the game, right?
Do you agree
know
they're
what I did?
possible inferences?
I met the
I've never
Sultan,
denied
Sultan
that.
Unkid.
Well, actually, maybe.
And I was
depending on
like,
how you define God, maybe
can I
I
have some
denied
armour and
Okay,
stuff?
I didn't say God.
And he's like,
Yes, exactly. Yes. So,
I didn't say God.
Yeah. So if it's not God, it's just
He
some
goes,
kind of
who do you think you are?
agent.
Asking me that,
Yeah.
Are you aware
Go
of
to
the
this
Islamic
village.
concept of God, by the way?
and see what the troops are doing there.
yeah,
whatever.
I
So I
don't
went to this
know.
village.
Since you teach philosophy, you're going to be teaching philosophy of religion, right?
That cannot
I
be
actually
true, you
don't
lie.
know.
What type of
They would
philosophy?
never leave it
I taught
unguarded.
various different things. So I taught.
All right, I won't look again. I didn't go back.
I'm teaching.
Yeah, I went through.
I
I could see 50 soldiers marching towards the town, and I saw some watchtowers.
You're eventually going to
That
delve
makes
into
sense.
philosophy
They
of
give me like
religion.
5,000 gold.
When you do that, you'll understand
What
that
is that?
the Islamic concept of God is not the standard understanding of God that people usually have, especially in this country. So
did-
God is not
It's annoying when
physical.
you get the
God
but
is
you know
not
what they've done
within
now?
space, time,
They've added
matter,
now that you
energy,
can get
completely
things, so
transcendent.
you can go to
So
towns and
often
villages
when people
and you can
speak
get an
about
actual
God,
scroll,
there's a
and it'll come in your inventory.
So,
Most ever had. All they ever had.
Because I used to just invent
well,
stuff.
for example,
Like I was trying to
some of
convince
the
this Arwa
branches,
to marry me.
they would describe God in an
She
anthropomorphic
says,
way,
"Oh, go to
which
this
we
village
deny.
and see how it is."
They would say
So I
things
went
like
to
God
this,
breasts,
and
which we
then
deny.
I brought back the
right?
reports saying
So
the pipe
when I
needs
say a
fixing and this, that, the
spiritual
other. Oh, you've done well.
entity, I'm
I
not
had
going that far.
trauma
I'm
with
just saying
Arwa,
there's
you know
some
that.
spiritual
She got married
entity.
off to some other
Now,
guy.
of these
She's
two
promising to marry me.
inferences,
I'm on my
you're
way.
taking the inference of Francis Crick,
then she got married to
or
some
not
other guy.
Francis Crick. You're taking
But
a
then I was
naturalistic
looking and saying, but
inference.
she hasn't changed.
I'm taking an inference to do with a supernatural entity. Now the contest is
And I went to see her, I
whose
said, "What do you say
view
you're gonna
is
marry
more
me?"
justified. Do you
Yeah,
agree
but I
where
have
we
to
are so
think of my
far?
father first.
Okay,
and
good.
our clan and
Why do you think my
She never
view
married him,
is
and then she
incoherent?
married a lord from a different faction.
Okay, you don't. Okay, good.
She didn't marry him either. And now I've got her as one of my companions, trying to marry her.
How did you become Muslim, Hamza?
So I said, Ashhadu an la
Okay,
ilaha
so
illallah
I
wa
misunderstood you.
ashhadu
I
anna
thought you said my view
I
is
don't think it's
incoherent.
incoherent.
Okay, good.
I just think it's not likely to be true.
How long have you been Muslim?
So
24
now
years.
I'll ask you. If I was to
How you doing,
put
Mark?
to you that I think your view is less justified than mine,
What's wrong
I'm
with
going to
Christianity?
ramp up my argument against it, but for now, less justified. Based on the fact that
It's a lie.
it is very unlikely that we have a naturalistic explanation because of the level of specified complexity. It's not leaves saying Joe is a great guy who's wearing a red jacket. It's DNA that can be read from left to right and 3D and all of this complexity which explains our structure, our behavior, our ability to reason. All of these things for me jump out and call out for an inference which makes much more sense in my worldview of there being a supernatural creator.
Yeah, I mean, so
why do you keep telling me your opinion on
it does
what
actually tie into
people
the thing I
think?
said earlier about how I think that rationality is quite thin.
Do you care about anything?
Quite thin, like standard.
Besides yourself?
Right? Which is that, like, obviously, if you're a Muslim already, then yeah, it kind of is rational for you to think that, I suppose. I mean, maybe,
really? What country?
At least. But so, why is it? So the sheer amount of information in it makes it unlikely. Is that the point?
The level of specified complexity makes it highly unlikely that such a thing could be best explained by the laws of nature and time, space, matter, and energy. Simply because in our human experience, we have seen specified complexity as the result of the mind. Now I'm going to add something in here. Which you may not have considered about my worldview.
Yeah, I deny that thing about it being a result of the mind. By the way,
you deny what? Sorry.
So you said that when we see specified complexity, and again, I just want to reiterate, I'm basically just interpreting he was talking about information.
Sure.
That it's the result of the mind. I deny that.
So give an example of one thing that you know of.
I will keep doing the same example. I promise you. I will.
It's stupid though, isn't it?
No matter how many times you ask, I will.
I want to give you one thing. I want to give you one thing about my worldview which you're going to disagree with.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I do not believe that the belief in God should be only inferred from nature. I start off with the belief there is a God. Yes. That's my worldview. Okay. Do you think that's coherent?
It's coherent. I wouldn't do it myself, but it's not my cup of tea.
But you're maybe a naturalist, so you start on the other spectrum, on the other end.
I don't think I start with naturalism. No, I don't think.
But we have to start with some form of metaphysics, right?
Joe,
I don't think you do have to start with the metaphysics, really. No, I don't think you do.
But I mean, it's hard to have a perspectiveless perspective.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, the tack I'll take here is that I think that you start with seemings, the way that things seem to be, and you work backwards to a metaphysics, and then you use your metaphysics sometimes to infer.
Okay, so you build metaphysics from empiricism.
I mean, not necessarily.
I disagree with that.
Not necessarily empiricism. So when I say the way things seem to be, I don't just mean empirically the way they seem to be, but like
conceptually.
So for example, it seems to be true that 1 + 1 = 2, right? That's not. And as you said earlier, it also seems that is not an empirically discerned truth.
So you're only speaking about concepts and building your worldview by starting off with concepts, and if those concepts are coherent, and then applying that to the world? I'm a bit confused about where you... Because I'm very clear, I start off with God.
Yeah. I think that...
Most atheists I speak to say we start off with the brute fact of nature.
Right, okay. Well, look, I mean, I can't account for what most atheists say.
The thing is, you're sort of slipping into solipsism.
No, I'm not.
I was thinking Matt Dillahunty.
I don't think so.
The funny thing is, he denies...
Because you said you build metaphysics.
Yeah. So,
from the world.
But the seemings can basically be anything, right? Like and one of the things that seems true is that there are other minds.
What's the point? Sorry.
Okay. Just on that, when you say it seems there are other minds, do you mean other minds in an immaterial sense?
No.
You don't?
No, it's in the same sense that my own mind exists, which I'm a physicalist, so I guess I just...
Okay, so there are no such thing as immaterial minds. It's the illusion of having a mind.
Yeah.
So that's not really a metaphysics there, is it? That's a physicalist assumption.
Well, but I mean, the word metaphysics doesn't have to mean supernatural stuff. Like,
no, it doesn't.
You can have a materialist
metaphysics. It doesn't, but it means non-physical. Non-physical doesn't necessarily
mean...
That's
just not how I'm using the word. So, like, the way that I'm using the word metaphysics, like, to have a metaphysics is just to have some kind of view about the way that the world is structured or something like that.
Sure.
Which almost means nothing, right? Like, it's very, like... Do you know what I mean? Like, the word metaphysics means very little, but I don't know. So what's the relevance
I'm trying to understand. You said you're a coherentist.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, about
Okay.
justification, about meaning,
So-
probably as well. Yeah.
You do not build your worldview starting off with clear axioms,
Yeah, no. There's basically
don't-
there's a big old circle that basically is happening.
as long as it coheres.
Yeah, I mean the analogy that gets used sometimes is like repair. It's like pieces of shit where you reconstruct repair it, reconstruct repair as you go. Right?
So are you a pragmatic coherentist? It's about how you experience the world and then you reconstruct your metaphysics.
Yeah, I mean, see, like in the analogy that Quine uses, you have your kind of core beliefs and your peripheral beliefs, and the core ones are kind of like what you would describe as the foundation.
So like, you have a web,
Yeah,
and as you're going inside of the web, you get mathematics.
yeah,
then
and like your really basic metaphysical principles you believe in.
And then you get logic inside
Yeah,
of that.
all that-
Okay,
all that good
okay.
stuff.
So the kernel that you agree with, that you know for certain, what is it?
Well, but the whole point of the web analogy, right, is that there's a centre but there's no foundation. So
Yeah.
you can kind of reform the centre without literally destroying the structure of the whole web.
But not you can't challenge the laws of logic.
You
that's
can.
right in the
You can,
centre.
You can, yeah, I think you can.
That's pretty extreme.
I think you can, yeah. I mean, I believe in them, but I think you can challenge them. So, like,
So what would you? So let's just say right in the core, right in the center, the world is real.
yeah,
Okay, can that be challenged?
yeah.
Mind in a vat.
Solipsism.
I don't know. I think it can be challenged.
We're back.
I believe it, but it can be
Okay,
challenged.
how would you challenge it? I think it's impossible to challenge.
Yeah, well, I think it's very difficult to challenge. I'm not denying that, but like,
I'm saying it's impossible. There's a difference.
We're gonna start calling you
I
Matt,
don't really
mate.
get why. Huh?
We're gonna start calling you Matt.
Matt, why?
Matt Dillahunty.
Oh,
Not even sure of his own reality.
Oh, fuck's sake.
So this is the point at which we're gonna divert.
That's where you're
completely
going,
because
What does
I-
Matt Dillahunty say about it?
Okay.
He doesn't even.
To be honest, he's not coherent. He's
Matt
not
seems like a
coherent.
nice guy, but he says mistaken stuff.
he's not
He
coherent.
doesn't even know if his own reality is true, and he doesn't believe anyone else can know if their reality
He's
is true
shifted his
either.
position too many times.
Well, you're allowed to change your mind on stuff, but yeah.
I want to challenge you on this, right? You're saying we can challenge the idea that the world is real. So I want you to give me a reason for us to doubt it.
Well, what I'll do is I'll give you the broad reasons why I think the world is real, and then the challenge that could come is if someone
Mind in a
denied
vat.
that
Say
evidence.
it. Say it. Mind in a vat.
No. So, I think that I basically think that the kind of regularity that we experience in many different ways, we experience regularities, right? And whether that be like physical regularities or regularities in the way people behave and like personalities and stuff like that. Just the best way to explain it in the standard kind of inference the best explanation way is by appealing to external objects. If it was the case that your experience of the world this is possible, it's very unlikely it's going to happen. I'll grant you that. But it's possible that every single regularity or like regular feature and structure of your experience just goes away. In which case, my experience of coherent individual people and objects and like the world over time and stuff like that, all of that goes away, and I can't get a grasp of which things I think are caused by objects anymore versus, like, there's no distinction I can make between hallucinations of my own mind and actual objects in the world, because my experience of the world is so fucked up, right? That is the sort of case where I might doubt that there's an external world, but that's not what's happening, so I do believe in an external world.
But there is an I.
You're nodding, right? That makes sense, right?
There is an I. You
Yeah.
So you
could
that you
even
exist.
experience some kind of ego death, right? I mean, I've done it before. It's pretty crazy.
So when you say I,
Yeah.
you believe you do exist as a conscious being.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the world is real for you.
That part of the world, at least. But normally, when people talk about an external world, it's this other stuff as well, not just.
Okay. So even if you're a brain in a vat, the vat is within a world.
Yeah. So So
It doesn't end.
Yeah. So.
That's why I'm saying it's incoherent to challenge the idea that the world is real.
Yeah. So. Maybe. I mean.
What do you think of Descartes' meditations then, when he builds a
yes.
worldview starting with these first principles?
Sorry, really quick. To go back to the brain in the vat thing, just doesn't have anything about it. So there is this thing that David Chalmers has said before, right? He wrote a book about like simulations or something, and the point he made, which I think is basically correct.
The hard problem.
Huh?
The hard problem?
No. It's a different thing. He basically said that it was about, like a book about virtual reality or something. He basically said that if you were, say, like a brain in a vat hooked up to a computer that stimulates your neurons and kind of simulates experiences of people and things and objects and laws of physics and things, that in a sense, basically everything you're experiencing is actually real. It's just that the fundamental nature of the things you're experiencing is different to what you thought it was. You thought it bottomed out at like atoms and particles and things like that, but actually it bottoms out in like, you know, facts about the hard drive and CPU and RAM of a computer that your brain is hooked up to. The objects are all there, but they're in the hard drive, right? They're in the hard drive, they're in the RAM.
That's a non sequitur, though.
No, I'm actually agreeing with you. I'm saying that there's a sense in which you really are tapped into an external world, even if you're a brain in a vat.
That's my point.
Yeah, but the thing is, so the thing about the brain in the vat thing is that you do still end up losing the notion of like external minds. Unless
the world is real.
Unless
brain in a vat.
Unless you had a supercomputer, because it's a hypothetical, right? You can imagine it's as powerful as we like. And obviously you're going to disagree with this because you're not a physicalist, but if you were a physicalist like I am, and you thought that, in principle, a computer could simulate a brain or a mind so perfectly that it just is a mind, then you could have a supercomputer that simulates everything, basically, to the amount of detail that you think it really exists, and also simulates the other minds to the extent that there just actually are other minds in the computer. Basically what you've got there is a situation in which everything you believe is actually true, the fundamental nature of it is just different to what you thought it was.
That scenario seems to have an assumption about consciousness, which is a material assumption.
Yeah, it does. But anyways, the thing is, we were originally talking about the external world or whatever. This might not be relevant.
But do you see why that's a very problematic scenario for someone like me who doesn't believe in that material assumption of consciousness? That may work for you, but it wouldn't work for me.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So it's not. So you haven't provided an argument. You've simply.
That was me kind of agreeing with the thing you said about the brain in a vat. Like actually,
because what I feel what you're doing is you're restating your position. But what I was looking for was something deeper. I was looking for a justification for doubting reality, and I don't think you have one.
No, I don't think there is one.
Okay, that's my point.
No, but originally what you said was, is it possible to doubt it? And what I sketched was a situation that we don't live in, right? Because I do believe in an external world, so I have to
all around.
I said something stronger. I said it was incoherent. I mean, I believe it to be incoherent.
Again,
what's incoherent?
I just wanted to show me how you know.
It's incoherent to doubt that the world is real.
Well, so
I am real.
Yeah, so
he doesn't know.
The scenario I gave, right, where you're kind of basically like your sensory experience of the world is just like utter noise. Like it's just there's no way to discern signal from noise.
So
right?
he's not responding
in such a way that you could cobble together a notion.
We still steamroll.
Coherent
Because people
objects
watching
that
this
exist over
anyway.
time have properties, so on and so forth.
You know, I said, tell me something you know.
You
well,
said,
and this
but you still exist, so there is still a world.
This is why I do this.
The world is just
This is why I don't try to sell it.
Yeah,
this is why I
that's
just
true.
justify it for
but
myself.
Normally, when
and
people
is it
talk about the
irrational?
external world,
Fallacy.
they're talking about the stuff other than that. And when
This is the difference.
So,
I don't have to do what he's doing.
so
I can infer it. They have to posit to me.
I don't know. And then also,
well, I'm wrong
if you do
for
experience an
believing
ego
that
death, I mean, it might be the case.
Information is only sourced by intelligence because they can give an example. So they should be able to demonstrate an example of something that they know is sourced by intelligence. What you can't do is say something you don't.
In which case, you no longer believe in anything, right? You don't exist.
I don't think we're disagreeing right now.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Really.
Can I just ask this final question? Sorry, forgive me because it went everywhere. You come over for dinner with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you doing, sorry?
How do you know this isn't sourced by intelligence?
I think there's good reason.
That's
So, no, but mate, look, really quick. Before I will answer that question. We have to get around this thing, which is that justification does not have to provide certainty to give you knowledge. You can have uncertain but very likely knowledge.
Okay. So that would mean, for me to say that I don't know of anything that contains information that isn't sourced by intelligence, you can't challenge that.
Why does that entail that? I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Because you would have to demonstrate to me that there is something that contains information that isn't sourced by intelligence.
Yeah. So my example.
Your opinion wouldn't help.
So my example of the atmosphere around us, right, is an example that
It's just your opinion.
No, but I know it. I claim to know it because
your opinion.
there's justification to believe that it didn't come from intelligence.
No. What's the justification?
Well, like theories of geology and the formation of atmospheres.
Okay.
Like, there's no person that.
That would mean you're positing there is no God.
So if your argument here is like, well,
that's what's going to happen.
Who put the laws of physics?
That's what's going to happen.
Oh no, yeah. Who put the laws of physics in that the atmosphere obeys and stuff like that?
You're going to have to posit that
you're making a cosmological argument.
No.
You are.
No. Not at all. What I'm saying to you is this: I'm making a creation argument because look. Even Richard Dawkins doesn't say there is no God. He just says he doesn't accept us as a God. Okay. For you to say you know that this is natural would posit that there is no God.
Yeah.
But you don't know that.
Yeah. I think it's a completely live option.
You don't know that.
It's completely live
but
option.
you don't know it.
I think it's a completely live option.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Every atheist says they don't know if God exists. No, they just don't believe he does.
I think I've got reason to believe. I mean, it depends. And again, I'm not trying to be kind of avoidant here. It does depend how you define God. Like,
Could God exist?
That is a lot.
Could God exist?
What do you mean by God?
Creator.
Of literally everything.
Of everything.
Could be anything.
Alhamdulillah. So we could have caused this, yeah?
Could have, yes.
There we go. So there's no evidence there now.
Well, mere possibility doesn't entail likelihood.
But when I ask you a question about things you know...
How can you not get this?
Okay.
Mere possibility does
think
not entail likelihood.
No, what you're not getting is very, very simple things. You don't know if God created this or not, do you?
I think I have a good reason to
You don't know it, though, do you?
I think I have good reason to believe it, so yeah, I do.
Oh, so you have good reason? Okay, so you have good reason to believe God doesn't exist?
Because I need to give these mics
What's a
back.
good
It's
reason?
raining now. Jazak Allah
A
Khair.
theory of the world in which God doesn't exist is
Sam
simpler
and the others.
explanations.
No, what's your good reason to believe God doesn't
That's
exist?
the good reason. It's simpler. Better explanations that are simpler are better. You believe the better explanation. That's the one where God doesn't exist, according to me. What? So there's a.
He's now positing God doesn't exist after saying he doesn't know.
I basically take the Graham Oppie type view, right, which is that you compare theories of the world, where theories are just like a total
Let me
account.
answer the question again. Could God exist? Could God exist?
You got to let me actually answer the question.
No, I don't allow this.
Huh?
Could God exist?
You say, come on.
Because you answer.
trying.
No. Joe, you answer the question, then you say something completely contradictory. Okay, could God exist?
Yes.
Could God have created this?
Yes.
So you don't know whether.
Doesn't follow. That doesn't follow. Sorry. I know you know it doesn't follow.
No.
I know.
Look, I think you two are using two different definitions.
Potentially.
Because his definition of knowledge doesn't require certainty. Your definition does. That's why you're talking about
times. I've literally said that a couple of times.
But
that's the standard.
But that doesn't work.
No, I believe knowledge requires certainty. You believe it doesn't.
Why?
Because that's my definition of knowledge.
Okay. Then by that contrived definition of knowledge that does not map onto the ordinary use of the word knowledge.
It's not.
Yes, I don't know it.
Everyone's definition of knowledge is contrived.
No, it's not. It's not.
So, what is the standard definition of knowledge? There is one.
Well, so
No, he said I. Standard definition.
God, man. Like, I get there's cameras, but like, we can have a conversation without all like the lame rhetoric and stuff. But look,
there's no agreed definition.
First thing, that
knowledge.
wasn't rhetoric. That's you. When I ask your question.
well, if you interrupt me and have a go at me saying I, well, I start.
Complete your point,
It's just
please.
rhetoric.
Well, it is if you ignore the question. What's the standard?
But you don't know if I've ignored the question
Anyway,
because I haven't answered it yet.
Let him complete his point. What's your point?
So I think there is a general usage of the word knowledge, and while I can't define it like necessary and sufficient conditions, I certainly do not think, well, not literally certainly, but I think there's very good reason to believe that the standardly accepted definition of knowledge does not require certainty for justification.
Okay, so I'll explain to you why I think my definition, which some people do subscribe to, makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Belief can be probabilistic.
Yep.
Knowledge, when you make it certain, it's epistemically cleaner when you're having discussions.
Okay.
So, like, if I want to say I believe in something, I can leave an element of doubt. But when I say I know something, there is no doubt. So the definition of knowledge...
That's exactly the thing I deny, though.
That's
exactly what I deny.
I know, because your definition of knowledge is different.
Yeah.
Now, the standard definition, which existed before the Gettier issue, true justified belief, it doesn't have certainty in it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Justification can be inductive.
However, it is true, though.
What is true, sorry?
Knowledge, the classical
why?
definition was that true justified belief.
Yeah.
So it's true.
Yes.
Right. The definition that you subscribe to is that it doesn't have to be true.
No, the definition I subscribe to. So things can be true. So I don't think your justification has to be anything that you have deductive certainty in. It does have to be true. I mean, it can be the case, for example, that you can make a lucky guess. Or it can be the case that you are unfortunately in a position where you have good reason to believe something, but you're so unlucky that it's not the case. Like luck does enter into knowledge, like it just does.
No. So I think that we're not talking about, say,
On your view, truth and justification, those two conditions just collapse into one. They're not different. Because if you believe that justification in that slightly weird, you must admit, definition of knowledge requires certainty, the kind certain deductive kind of inferences from premises that you know certainly as well will deliver truths certainly. So you have justification to believe a thing if and only if the thing's actually true. They're just the same condition.
Have I justified to believe God exists based upon DNA?
I think probably not. No.
Okay, I didn't quite get what you said there.
Back round to a different.
But look,
Yeah, but I don't think you've addressed my argument.
my definition of knowledge is it has to be certain. If we speak about, for example, you spoke about where the element of luck or probability comes in.
Yeah.
That is going back to that classical example of a broken clock, right? So you believe in something, it's true that the time is 6 o'clock, and it's justified because you looked at it, right?
They're the ones who
Is that
make
knowledge?
this big deal.
It's not knowledge.
That's a Gettier case though. So like,
It isn't. So that's what I mean. So I reject
So they're the ones that emphasise
So-
this
So
tone.
how
when
is
I
that
try
weird?
to use it,
So I'm not
this
talking
guy's
about
trying to
Gettier
disassociate
cases.
with it.
I'm talking about.
I'm trying to avoid that.
He doesn't know if God
yeah.
exists
So
or
how
not.
is my definition weird?
But he knows, or he's
because
justified in believing
the
that this
standardly
is
used
the source
definition
by
of knowledge that everyone.
There is no standard.
There is and there isn't.
No, there isn't.
How does that follow?
It's
From a philosophical perspective,
too late for
the definition of knowledge is highly contested.
This is so basic.
it's actually not very contested. The view that you've got, which is like infallibilism,
I might be wrong.
is
I don't.
by far the minority of all of them.
Okay, so
But that's not
I don't think
okay,
there's many
okay,
people
it's a
who
minority,
believe this.
doesn't make
What
it
this guy does.
So
So look, I interviewed Timothy Williamson on this, and he's a knowledge first epistemologist.
Yes.
Right? So when it comes to the view
Joe, it's been a pleasure.
of
have a good one, mate.
the standard way,
I'm just going to have a little fish. Yeah.
the standard way of defining knowledge, I find that very problematic. So I like to stick to something more certain. But that doesn't really matter as long as we both agree that we're using different
So
definitions.
here's the thing though, right? Like if you, fine, but if you have that definition that you're working with there, then even you, right? Even though, a theist or whatever, like the most committed theist in the world, you can't, for example, know that I have two legs.
I have.
You can't know that. The statement Joe has two legs, you can't know that. Because the reasons, if I ask someone, how do you know you have two legs? They would give me all sorts of justifications that are inductive. They would never be able to deduce it from premises that are themselves certain. It would never. It's not the kind of thing that you can know that way. And in fact, I'd wager that almost all of your knowledge is like that. Like so much of the things, many of the things you would standardly conceive of yourself as knowing,
So-
is things you know inductively.
So if I believe in Pythagoras,
How would you deductively derive?
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
You know, it's best to slow down.
Yeah, sure.
If I was to say Pythagoras' theorem is true, and I know it,
Yeah.
what in the world could I observe that would undermine that theorem?
Well, I mean, if the theorem is just that it follows from the axioms of Euclidean geometry or whatever, I mean, as it turns out, like physical space-time isn't Euclidean, so actually,
No, but a squared plus b squared is c squared. Or 1 plus 1 is 2. Let's just keep it simple.
Yeah.
What in the world could challenge that proposition?
I don't know. Maybe nothing. What's
Okay, my answer is nothing. My
Yeah,
answer
okay,
is nothing.
what's the relevance?
Right.
What's the relevance?
So my point is, I know something for certain that cannot be challenged inductively. Because you said,
Yeah.
I suspect, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, you said, I suspect all your knowledge is inductive, and I disagree with you.
Well, I don't know. What I said was the vast majority. That's what I said.
Okay.
I was very.
I don't disagree that most of our knowledge is inductive.
But you can't believe in inductive knowledge by the definition of knowledge that you use.
No, I can.
No, you can't.
Of course I can.
No, you can't, because you can't be certain about
Okay, so-
reason inductively. You can't.
So just
Basically,
to
by definition, you
so
can't.
I want to explain my epistemology.
All right.
I see a very clear need for inductive abductive and deductive conclusions.
Yeah.
And I see them all as part of my foundationalist worldview.
Yeah, sure.
I don't discount, I'm not somebody who says I won't believe in something just because it's inductive. I think it's irrational to do that.
Well, but
So why is my view incoherent?
So, if knowledge requires the justification that feeds into knowledge has to be of the kind that gives you certain knowledge, right? It can't be inductive justification. It can't be. It can't be. If you can't, based on that definition, you can't know things that are justified purely on the basis of induction, such as the belief that you have two legs. You can't deduce that from certain premises. You just can't.
Okay, but you can say you believe in those things.
But you know them as well, don't you?
No, so I believe there's only very few things we know.
Okay.
When it comes to absolute knowledge,
Yeah.
like from my worldview, we can even believe in, for example, the idea that creation hypothetically is being continuously created. So it's not like the view that there are true secondary causes, like the view that was held by Aristotle. From my perspective, it's possible that reality is regenerated every single second, and it's also possible that at this moment we have inbuilt memories of things which are hundreds of years old or dozens of years old, but were just inbuilt in our minds.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those things are incoherent from my perspective.
Okay, but
so I don't need to. I don't need to deny something because it's purely inductive. I can simply say I believe it to be true.
Based on that knowledge, based on that definition of knowledge, you have to say you don't know it. That's my point. And so, really quick, remember, the reason I started bringing up the two legs examples, right, was that I basically...
But I can't say I know God. I can say I know God.
Okay, fine.
I know the law of non-contradiction.
Yeah, sure.
I know the principle of sufficient reason. By the way, you previously said the simple explanations are the best explanations, Occam's razor. I disagree with that as a principle. So I also was wondering if you're gonna deny the principle of sufficient reason, which is strong, and you're going to propose Occam's razor, which is weaker, which is based on empirical data. Like, why would you deny this and accept that?
We're changing the subject a bit. I just want to be clear.
But I was a bit confused about that.
Yeah, fine. I'll answer it if you want. But my original claim was that way you're using the word knowledge, and also it was the other guy that was here, I forget his name.
Mansoor.
I don't want to speak about him while he's not here, that's not fair, but his weird, slightly whack definition of knowledge, as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of his fault you had to defend this. But
No, you two had two different definitions.
Yeah, but so my point was, that way of talking about knowledge is absolutely not the way it is normally spoken about with people, like the way what the word knowledge means
It's highly
in standard
contested.
English.
It's highly contested, though. Knowledge.
No, but some features of it are not. So, for example, every competent English speaker here, which I assume most people here are, if you ask them, do you know you have two legs? They go, obviously yes, what are you talking about? And then, if you ask for the justification, it would be inductive, which means the standard usage of the word knowledge in English by competent English speakers does not require a level of justification that delivers certainty. It just doesn't.
Okay.
This is a very weird...
No.
This is what I mean when I say your definition is contrived.
So I was not using knowledge the way it's used by the layman.
Well, then you have to tell me that ahead of time.
No, which is why I gave you a philosophical definition. You and I both know, as people who study philosophy, most of the common language that we use can be misleading. So when you bring it when you import it in philosophical terms, for example, fact.
I mean, it certainly needs to be sharpened up. I wouldn't say it's always misleading or mostly misleading.
Okay, so for example, I'll give you a classical example: the selfish gene.
Okay.
Right? So there's teleological language being used, language of functionality, language of agency.
Yeah, but I think the selfishness thing is just metaphor.
Of course, but that's not the way it's perceived in public, is it? People actually say that's the selfish gene, and this
I don't know if that,
like they give it an anthropomorphic element, a color.
I mean, if I've never read that book.
This is why we need to.
I've never read that book, but if Richard Dawkins doesn't. If he makes out that there is a sense in which a gene is literally selfish, in the same way that people are selfish, then I would say he might have fucked up a little bit.
He was refuted. By the way, he was refuted on this because you know Mary Midgley, the philosopher.
Rings a bell, but
So she was a very famous philosopher, passed away a few years ago, and she famously refuted him on this point that he was guilty of double speak. He was using it in certain contexts, and in other contexts he was using it in other ways.
Yeah.
So I'm saying the way the public understands it is misleading. So that's why right. As people with a philosophy background, we have to use terms and define them clearly.
Yeah, but you also have to use terms, like you have to sometimes use terms in ways that are ordinarily used. Because like when you define what a term like knowledge means, you define it in terms of other terms, and then if you want to try and define those, you define those in terms of other terms. And eventually you sort of bottom out, and you bottom out, if you're going to bottom out on some like concepts or bits of terminology, you better bottom out on bits of terminology that you have a shared understanding of, i.e. is the kind of meaning that all of us just generally understand together, even if we can't define it precisely. Otherwise you're just fucked and we can't communicate.
Well, this is why you and Hamza are disagreeing as well. In the beginning, it's best to do academic throat clearing and just get everything sorted out, so you have a nice clinical discussion. Yeah, I think that's my cue.
Okay, yeah.
Watch the cameras. Yeah, sorry, carry on. We're back. I thought everything was gonna fly off.
Yeah. What you speak? Was I saying something? What was I saying?
No, what we both, I think, agreed about is that you have to clarify your terms before you start a discussion, or else it leads to confusion.
You can also kind of, it's thesis is shit, right? You can kind of prepare as you go a little bit, as long as both of you are okay with it.
Yeah.
And this is why, like, in this kind of like theist versus atheist like debate thing. I know you're like filming for your YouTube channel or whatever, right? So you're a part of it. But
Guilty.
Yeah. In this kind of like sphere and culture or whatever, there's this.
Well, you can still have good discussions.
No. Well, but sometimes the rhetoric gets used of like when someone uses a word in a sort of like imprecise way that they can't define with necessary sufficient conditions, but you kind of just reckon that both of you have a shared understanding of it. That's often picked on as like a really important weakness in the things that the person's saying, but it's not a really important weakness in the things that the person's saying. You can tweak as you go, right? If it's collaborative, if a conversation's collaborative, you can tweak as you go.
I sympathise with you, but
He doesn't agree.
No, but the nuance.
I can tell.
Yeah, but the nuance is if that term is being used in a way that
is very non-standard.
It's leading to a particular argument.
Oh, right.
So they're using it in a formal argument, and it's an imprecise term. It can lead to a lot of confusion.
It can.
Which is why
you do have to use. Yeah, you just have to do that sometimes, right?
But this is where you do the intellectual gymnastics, right? You go back and forth and stuff. But anyway, it's great speaking to you, Joe.
Yeah, for ages, mate. Yeah. It's nice speaking as well. I've seen your like some of your YouTube stuff. I also did see the Professor Dave stuff. So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, he keeps running away from future debates. I've asked him many times.
I would be really interested to hear your side of that story because I do watch his stuff every now and again. And
so look,
I disagree with him about something.
Let me give you an option. I don't know you. I've just met you today.
We know each other now.
Okay. But this wasn't staged, this live, whatever. How would you like to host it? Because this guy, he has trust issues. I'll be honest with you. When I set it up at the university, he claimed there was no event. I paid for his ticket. I paid for everything. And then he didn't send me the money back. It's a whole bunch of mess. So you as a person, I trust you. And in fact, I was thinking of getting like another atheist who is like neither here nor there, who's just balanced, because I want to do an in-person debate. And it's very difficult because he's like got these massive trust issues. So
So I teach at the University of York, not in London, so it's far away. Obviously, he's flying from the United States if he comes, so I guess it doesn't matter for him. Although, York's very talkative.
Okay, so let me give you a proposition.
I would endeavour to host it, but you would have to inform him about that.
Okay, no.
I can try and help.
Okay. How about this? I'll give you his email, and I'll give you the funds for everything, and you take care of the communication. Because this guy, I've been trying to debate him for almost a year and a half now.
Yeah, but I want this. I would like this to happen. I think.
And you can host it.
I think it'd be awesome. Yeah. We could book a room out in the university, and I could contact like the different societies and stuff.
And I'm going to hold you to. I'm going to take your number as well.
Yeah, you can do if you want. Yeah, can do.
So you teach where in the philosophy department?
Yeah, the University of York. Yeah. But whether or not, I don't think it doesn't seem, based on what the videos I've seen, that it's likely that he will want to do that.
His entire argument is, I didn't set up a debate. That was all it was.
Do not want that to be seen on the camera.
Sure.
Fuck it up.
Sure.
That fucking camera can see it. Yeah, okay.
Here you go, guys. Yeah.
You're going to start getting people calling me up and being like, so what, you just think that air came out of nowhere? But yeah.
Well, it's great speaking to you though. So I'll give you a WhatsApp.
Give me a message and then I'll save your number.
I'll give you a missed call. And if you can set it up, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I'll email the guy.
Actually, shall I tell you where you could be helpful?
It really does seem like you're more likely to get through to him, even still, though. Do you know what I mean? So
he does respond to emails.
Okay.
No.
Where I can be helpful is what?
We usually go around universities hosting debates,
Yes.
and we need like a neutral chair.
Okay.
So it'd be good.
Yeah, I'll chair neutrally. Yeah, cool. Yeah. I can get the Islamic Society along as well, and stuff like that.
Actually, I want to do it in a way that it's held by a neutral society, like a debating society or something else.
That we have debating societies. We can get the philosophy society there as well. They're all going to have opinions, right?
Yeah.
So, but
I want to bring down Matt Dillahunty as well.
Yeah. Mate, if you can get the funds to fly those people over, I will.
The funds are there. That's not difficult.
Yeah, okay.
That's not
I will
difficult.
endeavour to find a place and advertise things like that.
All right, good speaking to you.
Yeah, you too, mate. You too.
See you later.
See you around.
Oh, sorry. No worries.